This is the gift, right here, right now. This is the gift. And I don't want to spend my life too much in the past or too much projecting into the future, even those are great places to go. I want to be right here, right now, because this is where love is, it's where beauty is, it's where life is.
Jill, I want to read a quote from the wonderful poet Mary Oliver, which to me sums you up. Quote, "Instructions for living a life. Pay attention, be astonished, tell about it." End quote. So you to me are ever present. You're in awe. You pay attention to all that surrounds you. You allow yourself to be astonished by what you see, by what you experience. You're curious. You're moved deeply to share your experience and knowledge with the world. Do you see yourself this way? And if so, can you talk to me about if you were always like this, or maybe if this aspect of your personality was brought about post-stroke?
I've always been present. So the right brain is right here, right now, and I've always been very right-brained. And it wasn't until I was 20 that my brain scholastic circuitry actually turned on, and my mother was thrilled. Oh my God, she does have a left brain, and
Right.
she is going to study something.
Yeah.
She was a scholar, so of course that was important to her.
Right.
So I turned that on, and then I became a neuroanatomist, and I loved anatomy, and I loved gross anatomy, I loved neuroanatomy, and I love research. So I just loved that, so I was very present with that. Then on the morning of the stroke, that got wiped out, and I shifted right back into really being the character whom I had been before all of that turned on. And I think that one of the reasons why I did so well post-stroke was because I had a real strong right brain character already. So I had become more whole-brained, and when I lost the scholastic piece, I was really okay with that. My mother wasn't very happy about it, but I was good with that. Yeah. So I do. I live very present. It's this is the gift, right here, right now. This is the gift, and I don't want to spend my life too much in the past or too much projecting into the future, even those are great places to go. I want to be right here, right now, because this is where love is, it's where beauty is, it's where life is. So yeah, it's a policy of mine.
Yes, absolutely, in which you so eloquently displayed and told us in your brilliant TED Talk. And then when you've had that experience, and as you said, you were right brain, first of all, Mom was happy that you became more left brain, but then post-stroke, you're suddenly in the right brain again. So how is it with living all these years post-stroke, seeing the euphoria, the bliss, we're all one, the beauty of being alive, if you will, and the point of being alive, but then having to then be still in left brain to brush our teeth and to get up at 7 and to go to work, and how do you deal with not being depressed by then? Left brain.
Yeah, get out of that euphoria, come live in life, and then go back. For me, I function primarily in that right brain. I'm right here. I pay very close attention when I brush my teeth. I pay very close attention to when I do things. But the left brain is a skill set that we have to have in order to function in the world. We have to have language. We have to be able to focus on details. We have to be able to think linearly. We have to be able to engage on a schedule. We have to be punctual. We have skills that we have to use. But that's how I look at it. I look at it as these are skills. The character whom I had become as an academic, that character had kind of taken over my life because now I was living her life. Less of the art, less of the music, less of the activities, even though I still did that, I let the left brain personality kind of take over. So in the recovery of the skill set, I just decided that character is no longer going to be the boss. So she will be of service to me. I will use her skills. I will regain that circuitry. I will become whole brain, but that character is not in charge. And as long as that character is not in charge, I still get to be the part of me that is fun and happy and goofy and present and just enjoying life. And then I use that other skill set to engage with life. So I'm just really clear on what's going on inside of my head and at any time who's in charge and how am I feeling about that.
So how would you help those of us who haven't had your experience? Now, I have had a stroke, but I had an ischemic from a left vertebral arterial dissection. It only affected, the partial visual field. but your situation was so different. How do we incorporate what you've been able to incorporate?
I just think that it's a matter of willingness to pay attention to what time is your brain in. Where is your brain? Right now, where's your brain? Are you right here with me? Are you in the past? Are you thinking about lunch? You know, where's your brain and what's going on with you? And that alone gets you thinking about your brain. You have to be willing to be aware of what's already going on. And then you have to be willing to pay attention to what does it feel like when I'm being in that character of myself? Because we have various different ways of being based on the circuitry inside of our brain. So I think number one is the willingness to pay attention, and then the willingness to learn better. What are your options inside of yourself? What does it feel like when you're actually in the present moment? What do you do that's fun? What do you do that's right here, right now? Who brings that out in you? Hang out with them a little more if you like. What activities can you engage in? Do those things a little bit more. And then be really clear on when you're in the past or you're in the future or you're at work and you're running the schedule and you're dealing with the details. And what does that feel like inside of your body? And then just say, you know, they all have value. I never want to get rid of any of the characters inside of myself, but what does it feel like and what choices do I have moment by moment to pick who do I want to be in this moment?
Absolutely.
Or who's it appropriate for me to be in this moment?
You know, and I'm so happy you said that because it's also something that I like to be aware of. I mean, in terms of where's my inner compass? What's going on? What is happening in the present situation? As you've just said, who am I with? What are the circumstances? How can I best deal with the matter at hand? And then inner compass, as you said.
Right. I love that. I love that because that is really paying attention to what's going on, not just being or doing, but actually paying attention to how does it feel, who brings out what, how do I want to be, and actually having more say in who and how you want to be in the world at any moment.
And then you can really be your best self for yourself and then for everyone else. Which is so important.
That's the power to choose. That truly is the power to choose.
I want to repeat a quote that you often use, which is so wonderful. Please take responsibility for the energy you bring into this space.
We have so much more power over what's going on inside of our brain than we were ever trained. And I think that most people just don't know what their options are. And so the better we learn our brain, what our choices are, who are we anyway, and that just becomes building an awareness of self. Take responsibility for the energy you bring into any space and pay attention to the energy other people bring into the space, and don't be afraid to talk to them about that.
Which is really being in the moment.
That's being in the moment.
Completely. And then you're able to turn and swivel, you know, on a dime and be able to react or not react.
Well, there's the key, isn't it? To not react, Because a part of me might actually feel that stimulation, that circuitry might be wanting to go, and another part of me is going, seriously, Jill, right now, I don't think we need to go there.
Haven't we learned?
Exactly.
Absolutely. Oh, I know. I wanted to speak to you, Jill, about various healing modalities. You and I share an interest in various healing modalities that have a spiritual nature as well as a science-based approach to them. Can you talk to me about the Anat Baniel method and why you support it so? Also, how did it change your life? And I'm going to throw a couple of things at you, and you just respond the way you want to.
Okay.
We are both fans of the book A Course in Miracles. How does A Course in Miracles, aka ACIM, how does ACIM's principle of forgiveness apply to healing post-stroke, do you believe? And how has your spiritual life deepened post-stroke, if so?
Okay, those are big questions. So I love the Anat Baniel method. I see this method as the second generation of Moshe Feldenkrais's work. Anat Baniel worked with Moshe during his last decade of life, and she observed everything that he was doing and turned it into a very trainable program. And it is a neuromuscular programming, and I just went through half of a 14-month training just to understand what is it actually doing to the body. And what this technique does is it's neural movement, so it's the relationship between the muscles and the brain, and it wakes the brain up for new learning. And I just love this technique because literally just about every time I watch a knot work, I have seen what the medical world would consider a medical miracle, simply because it's looking at the body and works with the body actually completely opposite from traditional rehabilitation. So I did not use this technique for my own learning, but I read her book called The 9 Essentials, and every principle that she was basing her movement patterning on, I agree, I had done to recover my own brain. And so, you know, the world of medicine looks at Bolte Taylor and it's like, I'm just this oddball because I went from this extreme severity of not being able to walk, talk, read, write, or recall any of my life to actually completely 100% functional within 8 years. How did that happen? What did I do? And I love this program because it pretty much describes what I did. So when people come to me, I always send them to anotbenielmethod.com because that's where I believe they can get help.
So you were, during your recuperation for the 8 years, was before you had even heard of the Anat Beniel method? Wow.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I didn't meet Anat until years later after I'd completely recovered, and she came to me and because she'd learned of my book and my recovery, and she read it and she said, "Oh my gosh, you did all my principles. We need to know one another." And I was thrilled because, you know, I did it through the eyes of a brain scientist. What did I think my cells needed in order to recover? How do I get out of my own way emotionally? And that's one way now I'm going to shift to A Course in Miracles. And, you know, when I think about the brain, the division between science and spirituality to me is, seriously, there is no division between science and spirituality. Science, by definition of research, is the use of the scientific method. Anything that is linear thinking in method is going to be left brain based. Well, that's not going to be where spirituality is, and it's not going to be able to measure what spirituality is, and which is going to be the right brain experience of the big picture. So to me, there is no division other than the two hemispheres, which are communicating through 300 million axonal fibers through that corpus callosum, but they're completely different brain structures. So they do the same thing, but completely differently. This one is going down, 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 detail, detail, and this one's going up, 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 expansive, open. So here's science and here's spirituality, but it's all inside of your head. So to me, any tool that we can use to get ourselves out of our own way emotionally, oh my gosh. And that's what I like about A Course in Miracles, is that it's really common sense for a spiritual way of living.
Totally.
And when you infuse your normal life with that, then you get to live expansively and openly. So when I became big as the universe, because I didn't have that group of cells defining the boundaries of where I begin and where I end, when I became that is essentially A Course in Miracles way of living, present moment, right here, right now, and then be that, but infuse it and use the tools of that left brain. So that just takes us right back to the original conversation about this character. I did not want that character to take over. I'd rather be big as the universe all the time and then come in and use the skill sets of the left brain to be who I am in the world. And thank goodness for that left brain, because without it, I would be absolutely, completely non-functional.
Absolutely. I just have to, because that is just so awesome. Like, woohoo! Just gonna do it, woohoo. So specifically, the ACIM's principle of forgiveness applying to healing post-stroke, does that?
For me, it's the exact same thing. To forgive, first of all, what am I forgiving? You know, to me, forgiveness is something has happened in the past. It has created a wound, whether it's an external thing or it's, you know, I'm mad at myself because, oh my God, I had inferior circuitry and it blew a hole in my brain. Okay, so really, that's all about the past. And the left brain is all about the past. So the left brain is where our kind of the pain of the past, I feel guilty, I feel less than I was. I was a Harvard brain scientist, and then I became an infant again. I mean, boy, did I make that jump. And my little left brain ego center could have been going, oh my gosh, how could I have done that? You know, I was somebody and now I'm nothing. And it's like, oh no. no, that's just not the way. How does that serve me? And one of my most important principles of recovery is to get out of my own way emotionally, because it's that circuitry of stress and that circuitry of that distress and the left brain and all of that, and oh, woe is me, and oh, I'm not good enough, and oh, I'm not what I was, and oh, I'm half paralyzed, and oh, I'm drooling, and I can't even walk, and I could have this perception of self that I'm worthless now, and it's like, no, that was my left brain. It went off the line, and I think that that's what forgiveness gives. Forgiveness comes in and it says, what is. We didn't come in with a manual. We didn't come in with, this is how my life is going to live as a trajectory. This is the trajectory. So I think it's a matter of, okay, here's the hand I'm dealt. How do I play the hand I'm dealt? And forgiveness just gets in the way of that.
Woo-hoo. I feel like I'm imitating Oprah. I'm gonna cry, who I adore, because you're giving me so much here. My gosh, and I have to jump in and say, with my own stroke, so I had this, known as a huge model, I had a big modeling career. I was raised in it, and you tend to think, because the industry is about being perfect, there is no perfect.
Right.
There's Photoshop.
But to the left brain it is, to the left brain, perfection, 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 and you're perfection,
Right.
Yeah, and if it's not, they're gonna make it perfect.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you can't come to set with an ounce extra bit of flesh on you, or a blemish, or all of that nonsense.
Right.
And so when I had the stroke, and then I lost for a while vision, thank God it came back, but I still have a blind spot to the left side of my visual field. Oh my God, I'm not perfect. Oh my God, I'm nothing. What you're saying, I had experiments in my experience, and I couldn't talk about it, and I didn't want to. I was terrified. What are people going to think of me?
Shame. Oh, shame. Oh, guilt. Oh my gosh. Less than. How horrible. Yeah. I tell people, I don't care if you're miserable, as long as you enjoy it. Go be miserable.
Right.
And that kind of takes you to the 90-second rule. So one of the things I'm most known for is the 90-second rule. From the moment you think a thought to the moment you experience an emotion, and then you run that emotion through the physiology of your body, be it guilt, shame, anger, whatever, love, joy, happiness, from the beginning to it flushes through your body and out of your body takes less than 90 seconds. So if you're going to be miserable, go be miserable. Enjoy it. It's a beautiful circuitry. If you want to feel less than, go do that. But realistically, it's a little bitty circuit, and get on with your life.
Get on with your life.
Get on with, forgive it. Forgive yourself. Be what you are. I look at brain scans all the time of people who have had trauma, and they're going, oh my gosh, look at this problem, look at this. And I'm going, yeah, but look at all this beautiful tissue. And so we focus on that little bitty problem instead of what we have the potential with. And so what is the potential? Pay attention to the potential. Use it. I mean, look at this package. Okay, you got a little bitty, problem, and you might be able to miss a camera somewhere, but someone will tell you that camera's there. You are going to be just fine.
That's right.
Yeah.
When I got back into doing some jobs, and I kept bumping into things because I wasn't used to it, but I could laugh. As long as I remember to laugh.
Exactly.
Not take it all so seriously. Yeah. Thank God most of my vision came back. Yeah. And your situation, thank God. That everything came back.
Yeah.
I remember reading earlier this year, the Atlantic magazine had posted an article about a man who called himself Dr. Rapp. He was a doctor, I don't remember what his specialty was, but not brain, who I think in his 60s had a stroke and never had done any hip hop rhyming in his life. Right. And suddenly came out of the stroke and couldn't stop rhyming. Actually he lived in LA, got himself to part of LA where he was able to go into hip hop clubs and start rhyming. He was able to meet KRS-One of the legendary Boogie Down, who mentored him. This is extraordinary. And he actually mastered the technique a bit. There are people who come out of strokes who suddenly could not speak Chinese and have a Chinese accent. They can no longer lie. I read Dr. Alice Flatterly mentioned this in the article. She had a patient who was a hardcore businessman in Europe who was a bit of an a-hole, and suddenly he couldn't lie and would break down and cry. I mean, these kind of can't suddenly just hold back tearful emotion. Can you talk about that a little?
The brain's this amazing mystery, and it's filled with all these absolutely beautiful cells. And the whole nature nurture. We are born genetic genetically, certain wiring happens, and then based on what comes in through our sensory systems, different wiring happens.
Yeah.
And who knows the potential and the possibility, but if you wipe out a certain group of cells, you have trauma to one, those cells are probably reaching across that corpus callosum and inhibiting something else. So when trauma happens, not just do those cells go away, but it's like what you gain.
Yeah.
And so whenever I look at anybody who's had any kind of trauma, I always ask myself, what has this person gained because of what they no longer have? And so those people, the inhibition that is reaching across for those cells, now all of a sudden the inhibition's gone, and now they're doing something that that person had no clue that they could ever do before. And I think that that's a really beautiful principle in how to look at people who have had some kind of trauma. What have they gained? Don't focus on that trauma. Again, look at the good tissue, what's there, and not just that. Now that that's gone, what is going to be emphasized because the inhibition is removed? Yeah. What do they gain?
What do they gain, and how wonderful, and then it can lead you into other parts of yourself that you didn't know. And
I mean, look at yourself. You had this incredible career, and then you had this trauma.
Yeah.
And then what you have gained as a human being in the way that you now do your own inner compass because of this experience. What have you gained? And part of that is this whole new world.
Yes.
You actually care about a world of stroke that you didn't even think about before. And how can you then use you, the magnificent you, and who you were before into who you will become?
Yeah.
So, you know, yeah, it's a party.
Thank you so much.
It's actually a good thing.
Wow. I just want to say, Jill, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Happy to.
For Share Your Stroke of Genius and Thrive Global. And for me personally, so thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're very welcome.